He pulled her over on a quiet stretch of road in rural Georgia, a 73-year-old black woman driving alone in the dusk. He spoke to her like she was a problem, dismissed her, refused to check her ID, and nearly choked when she calmly handed him her Supreme Court credentials. Gloria Hemmings never liked driving after dark, not since Marvin passed. Her vision wasn't what it used to be, and her reflexes, well, she was honest with herself. Still, this route between Gray and Macon was familiar. Quiet, comforting, pine trees on either side. No billboards, just a two-lane road winding through the heart of Georgia. She'd taken this same drive home from her sister-in-law's house for years. That evening, the sky was painted a soft blue, the last rays of sun slipping behind the treetops. Her old satin-colored sedan hummed gently, tired but loyal, like her. The AC barely worked, so she cracked the window. A warm breeze swept in. On the passenger seat, a Tupperware container of peach cobbler and a foil-wrapped plate. Bernice never let her leave without food. "You're getting too skinny," she'd said with a nudge and a smile. Gloria had smiled back politely. Truth was, she hadn't had much of an appetite lately. Halfway through the drive, she passed an old church. The wooden sign hung crooked, weather-beaten. That's when she noticed headlights in her rear view. Bright, too close. No sirens, but the shape was unmistakable. A sheriff's SUV. She tapped the brakes. Maybe she was speeding? She wasn't. 5 seconds later, the blue lights flashed. She pulled over without hesitation, guiding her car onto the gravel shoulder. The tires crunched. She turned off the signal, shifted into park. Her heartbeat was steady, but her chest felt tight. She reached for her purse from the floorboard, placed it on her lap, and rested both hands back on the wheel. Just like she taught her grandson. Don't argue, don't reach fast. Keep your hands visible. Be polite. Let them feel safe, even if you don't. The officer didn't approach right away. He sat in his cruiser, lights still flashing behind her. 1 minute passed. She watched his silhouette through the mirror. Then the door opened. He stepped out. Tall, maybe late 30s or early 40s. White, buzz cut. A man who looked like he only smiled when he had to. She rolled her window down halfway. He approached slowly, hand resting near his belt. "License and registration," he barked. Didn't even wait to reach her window. No greeting, no explanation. Gloria kept her voice calm. "May I ask why I was pulled over, officer?" He leaned in. "You swerved back there. Been drinking tonight, ma'am?" "No, sir," she replied. "I haven't had a drink in over 20 years. He raised an eyebrow. "You got any weapons or controlled substances in the vehicle?" "No." He didn't ask for her documents again, just stared. "I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle." Gloria didn't move. "Am I being detained?" "Don't play games with me," he snapped. "Out of the car." She inhaled slowly. "Officer, I have identification I'd like to show you." He scoffed. "Later. Step out now." Her hand inched toward her purse. "Ma'am, don't reach." His hand went to his holster. She froze. "I'm not reaching for anything," she said softly. "My ID is inside my purse. May I show it to you?" A beat of silence. His chest rose and fell. "Keep your hands on the wheel," he barked. "You fit a description." She didn't ask which description. She'd heard that phrase before. Too many times. She stared ahead, hands still, lips tight. A breeze brushed strands of silver hair across her cheek. She didn't lift a finger to move them. Behind her, silence. Not a single car had passed, but it wasn't over. Not even close. Officer Brandon Kessler walked around her car. Slow, calculated, like he was searching for a reason to escalate, thumb resting too close to his holster. Face unreadable, except for that little knot between his brows. She watched him through the side mirror. Didn't flinch, didn't move. He returned to the window. "You from around here?" he asked. "Yes," Gloria replied. "Born and raised in Georgia." "You got an address that matches this vehicle?" "Yes, sir. The registration is in the glove compartment." "Not yet," he cut her off. She heard gravel shift as he stepped back, peering into the back seat. Her handbag, her cane, 2 crossword books beside a folded cardigan. "Where are you coming from tonight?" he asked again. "My sister-in-law's house. In Gray." He cocked his head skeptical. Late for a Sunday visit, don't you think? She had dinner waiting, Gloria said quietly. We hadn't seen each other in a while. You sure you weren't somewhere else before that? I'm sure. You swerved, he said again. Crossed the white line. Gloria didn't argue. She knew he didn't want the truth, just a story he could control. Her eyes stayed forward. Pop the trunk, he ordered. She blinked. Excuse me? I said pop the trunk. Is there probable cause for a search? She asked. That word, probable, hit differently. Something in his posture shifted. Not retreat, but hesitation. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked back to his cruiser. Gloria exhaled slowly. Her fingers flexed on the wheel. She'd handled more pressure on the bench than most folks could imagine. But this was different. This wasn't a courtroom. This was a dark road with no witnesses. He came back with a flashlight and shined it in her face. She winced, turned her head slightly. Don't move, he said. Just checking your eyes. I told you, I haven't been drinking. He stepped back, circling again, stalling, waiting for her to slip up. You travel with anyone? No. You ever been arrested, Mrs. Hemmings? No. You sure about that? She didn't blink. I'm sure. He smirked, tapped his flashlight against the door. Tell you what, if you give me permission to look inside, this'll go quicker. I don't consent to a search without cause. Kessler stared at her, then chuckled, dry and sharp. Well, someone's been watching legal shows. I follow the law, she said, voice steady. He straightened up, jaw tight. You know, most folks just cooperate. Makes things easier. For who? She asked. No response. He tapped her door. His radio crackled. He ignored it. Then, without warning, he tried the door handle. It was locked. You locking me out now? I didn't unlock it in the first place. He blinked. The script wasn't working. And Gloria, she hadn't said her last word. Not even close. Step out of the vehicle, he said again, avoiding the question. Gloria glanced at her purse, then back at him. May I take my bag with me? No sudden moves. I understand. She moved slowly, deliberately, never breaking his line of sight. She opened the flap, removed her ID case, slipped it into her coat pocket, and placed the bag back on the passenger seat. Then she opened the door and stepped out. The air felt heavier now, the stillness pressing down. Kessler pointed toward the front of her car. Stand right there. Face the hood. She obeyed, walking slowly, her cane still resting inside the vehicle. She didn't usually need it, but tonight her knees would have appreciated the help. Still, she stood straight, hands folded gently in front of her. Kessler circled her like a student waiting for his teacher to falter. She didn't blink, didn't shift, didn't speak. He moved to the open driver's door, leaned inside, and without asking, popped open the glove box. Gloria turned her head sharply. That's an illegal search, she said, voice even. I have cause. No, officer, you don't. He looked at her, and for the first time all night, his face cracked. Not with fear, not guilt, but with something smaller. Doubt. He closed the glove compartment and came back to her. You got a problem with how I'm handling this? Yes, she said. He raised an eyebrow. Care to elaborate? No, she said, but I think you'll understand soon. Something in her voice made him pause. Not defiance, not pride, just certainty. Who exactly are you? He asked, quieter now. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out the leather case, and handed it to him. He opened it casually at first, then looked again. His face slackened. He stared at the badge, the seal, the engraved name. Gloria M. Hemmings, Associate Justice, Supreme Court of the United States. He blinked. You're on the Supreme Court? I am. Her tone didn't change. It didn't need to. It was the voice of someone who had spent decades deciding the weight of laws and never once raising her own. Kessler took a step back, cleared his throat. I didn't know who you were. Gloria tilted her head. Would it have made a difference if you did? He opened his mouth, closed it. She didn't press him. She didn't have to. Wordlessly, he returned the badge with both hands. She slipped it back into her pocket and smoothed the front of her coat. I apologize, he said. barely looking at her. It was just a routine check. No, it wasn't, she said. Not angry, not loud, just the truth, laid bare. He shifted his weight again, boots scraping gravel. Look, I've been working a double. Long day, lots of calls. You've had a long day, she repeated. Her face was unreadable. He stopped talking. The woods around them fell quiet again. No wind now, no headlights, no passing cars, just the two of them and the weight of silence. You want to write me a citation? She asked. If I truly swerved, you should. No, he said quickly. No, that won't be necessary. Then I believe we're done here. She turned back toward her car. He stepped forward. Wait, please, I didn't mean any harm. She paused, looked at him fully. That's the problem, officer. You didn't mean anything, but your actions meant something. Her voice didn't rise, but each word landed. I wasn't afraid of you tonight, but someone else might have been. A younger woman, a teenager, my grandson. And that fear can ruin lives, even when you say you didn't mean it. Kessler swallowed. Hard. She could see it in his eyes, the shame blooming. You didn't see a judge, she said. You saw someone you thought couldn't speak for herself, and you were wrong. He didn't argue. She didn't need him to. I won't report this, she added, not because you deserve a pass, but because sometimes a lesson sticks better when no one else is watching. She opened her car door, then paused once more. One day, she said, not turning back, you'll remember this moment. I hope it makes you better. She got in, closed the door, buckled up. Her hand rested briefly on the gear shift. Then she pulled away. The taillights faded down the empty road, swallowed by the night. Kessler remained standing, arms slack at his sides. Not a single car had passed, not one. Eventually, he turned and climbed back into his cruiser. He didn't turn the engine on, didn't call it in, didn't write a report. He just sat there, face washed in blue and red, thinking, not about his shift or his badge, but about her words. The story didn't end with Gloria driving away. Not quite. She told no one. Not over coffee the next morning. Not when her niece called to ask about the cobbler. Not even during her Monday check-in with her clerk. She read the paper, took her usual walk, marked notes in the margins of a pending brief. On the outside, a normal week. But inside, something lingered. Not fear. Gloria Hemmings had worn a robe for longer than many wore a uniform. She had seen violence, injustice, arrogance masked in law. What lingered was older, heavier, disappointment. Not in him. She'd expected that. But in the truth that even now, after everything, credentials, service, decades of justice, this could still happen. Easily, casually, without cause. And if she'd been someone else, less composed, more afraid, it could have ended differently. That thought sat in her chest like a stone. On Wednesday, an envelope arrived. No return address, no name, just a small handwritten note inside. I don't know how to make it right, but I heard you. I'm thinking about what you said. The paper was thin, the handwriting uneven, but she knew who it was from. She folded the note once and slipped it into the back of her Bible. Not because she forgave him, not yet, but because she believed people could change if they sat with their shame long enough to learn from it. She never wrote back. There was no need. On Thursday, her pastor called, asked if she'd be willing to share a story at Sunday service. Just a few words. Something real. She hesitated, then said, yes. That Sunday, Gloria wore her blue church dress, pinned her mother's brooch to the collar. She brought no notes, didn't tell her family she'd be speaking. When Reverend Colbert gave her the nod, she rose and walked to the pulpit. Slow, steady, deliberate. The congregation was mostly older folks, farmers, teachers, widows, a few tired young parents, people who knew her, but not this part of her. She let the silence settle. I want to share something that happened last week, she began. No drama, no anger, just her voice, low and even. I was driving home late. I was pulled over by a deputy. I wasn't speeding. I wasn't swerving. I was just driving my late husband's old car. Gloria began, her voice steady as stone. Wearing the same coat. She paused. The room was silent. The officer didn't ask for my ID. He asked if I had drugs. He asked where I was coming from. Then he ordered me out of the car. A quiet gasp moved through the sanctuary like a wind. I stayed calm, she continued, kept my voice even, and eventually I showed him my identification. She didn't say what it was. She didn't have to. What mattered most that night, she said, wasn't that he recognized my title. It was what he assumed before he saw it. You could hear the air shift, like the church itself was holding its breath. There's a danger in how quickly we decide who someone is, based on nothing but a glance. And if we don't stop to examine that impulse, if we don't ask where it comes from, it can make us treat people in ways we don't even realize are cruel. Her eyes moved slowly across the congregation. I wasn't afraid that night, but many would have been. Young people, our sons, our granddaughters. A woman in the third row dabbed her eyes with a tissue. And I'm not telling you this to stir up anger, Gloria said. I'm telling you because someone here, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, might find themselves in a position to speak up, or to stay calm, or to remember who someone truly is, before rushing to judgment. She stepped back from the microphone. There was no applause, only silence. But not the hollow kind. The silence was full, heavy with respect. The story didn't make headlines. No reporters wrote about it. No video went viral. But everyone who had been in that church carried it with them, like a folded slip of paper kept in a wallet. Light enough to carry, heavy enough to matter. After the service, a few church members came up to hug her. No speeches, just long embraces, hands lingering a little longer than usual, eyes saying what words couldn't. By Tuesday, folks around Warner Robins were repeating her words, in barber shops, at checkout counters, in teacher lounges. They didn't always mention her name. They just said, "You know what the judge said," and everyone knew what that meant. Stories, especially whispered ones, travel farther than we think. That Thursday across town, in a creaky yellow house with a broken screen door, a teenage girl named Marley sat at the kitchen table doing homework. Her uncle, a part-time courthouse security guard, came in and dropped his keys on the counter. "You hear what that old lady said at the Baptist church last Sunday?" he asked, cracking open a soda. Marley didn't look up. "What lady?" "Some judge. Said a cop pulled her over last week, didn't know who she was, treated her like trash. Then she showed him her ID. Man nearly passed out. Supreme Court. Real deal. Lives right here." Marley's pen froze in the air. She didn't say anything, but something in that story lodged itself inside her. Deep. That same night across town, Officer Brandon Kessler sat on the edge of his couch. The TV flickered low. His wife Erica was asleep upstairs. A toy truck lay tipped on the rug. He hadn't told anyone the full story. Not his supervisor, not even Erica. He didn't know why. It wasn't fear, not exactly. It was her words. "This isn't about me. It's about your choices." They echoed at odd times. During routine stops, during coffee breaks, when his son asked, "Daddy, are you a good guy?" That night, something pulled him into the garage. He opened an old box near the tool bench. Inside, academy papers, early evaluations, a printed copy of his oath. He hadn't looked at it in years. He sat on the cold floor and read it slowly. Serve without prejudice. Protect without assumption. Words he'd once recited like a script. Now they felt heavier. He stayed there a long time. The next morning he left the house early. Didn't say much, just that he had something to do before work. He drove through town, past the shops and gas stations, and parked across from the church. He didn't go in, just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring at the building. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Maybe a sign of her, maybe a reason to believe any of it had mattered. He didn't find either. But as he looked to his right, he saw a teenage boy in a hoodie walking past with earbuds in. And without meaning to, Kessler felt it. That flicker of suspicion. That was the crack. The one that let the truth in. But stories like this don't end when someone learns a lesson. They keep living when others carry them forward. 3 weeks after that Sunday service, Gloria Hemming sat beneath the magnolia tree in her yard, reading Their Eyes Were Watching God. A glass of sweet tea sweated beside her. The morning was quiet. Then the phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but something nudged her to pick up. Hello, Mrs. Justice Hemmings? This is she. The girl on the other end sounded young, nervous. My name's Marley Jenkins. I go to Northside High. My uncle told me what you said at the church a few weeks ago. Gloria shifted in her seat. I see. It stuck with me, Marley said quickly. I wrote about it for school, and my teacher's having me read it at the county assembly next month. I just wanted to say, thank you. Gloria smiled unseen. You're welcome, Marley. I'm glad it meant something to you. It did. I don't think I'll ever forget it. They talked a few more minutes about books, college plans, what bravery feels like when you still feel small. After the call ended, Gloria sat still, her finger marking the page. Later that afternoon, she wrote Marley a letter by hand, mailed it herself. That weekend, at a diner near the edge of town, two off-duty deputies sipped coffee. One leaned in. You hear about Kessler? Guy's like a ghost lately. Doesn't talk much. Complaint? Nope. No report. No reprimand. Just changed. Like something shook him. Across from them, a waitress named Rhonda paused mid-order, pretending to write while she listened. She'd been at the church that Sunday. Told her sister, who told her cousin, who told a friend in Macon. The story kept moving. Versions changed. Some added drama, some softened edges. But the heart of it stayed the same. A woman calm and unshaken reminded a man that a badge doesn't excuse blindness, and did it without raising her voice. Weeks passed, then months. Gloria never spoke of that night publicly again. She didn't need to. The story lived without her, carried from hand to hand, like a folded truth in someone's pocket. And maybe that's how change really happens, she thought. Not through outrage or spotlight, but one story, told right, landing exactly where it needs to. She never said the officer's name. She never would. Because this wasn't about revenge or shame. It was about memory. About what happens when someone with power chooses not to humiliate, but to hold up a mirror. And when the person behind the badge finally chooses to look into it. Much later, a young officer in training asked Kessler what the most important lesson of his career had been. He looked down at the floor for a long moment, then said, listen closely to the people who speak softly. They're usually the ones worth hearing. And sometimes the loudest wake-up call doesn't come with sirens. It comes from a voice you tried to ignore.